Next speaker is the Commissioner of the New Jersey Department of Transportation. I know that he's made a substantial contribution in a very short period of time. John Simpson.
Thank you. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Dr. Fabricant, you gave more than one, at least two very compelling stories. You began by saying that you were a former truck driver, and I found that very moving because I am a former truck driver. It's almost like a Alcoholics Anonymous. I'm a former truck driver. I'm reformed, you know. But I spent much of my life in the trucking industry, like Mike Chevelle. And the other part of your story, you talked about the homeless issue, you know. And I have my own personal experiences with homelessness. Back in the early '80s, you could do it in those days. You know, I'd have a truck, and I'd be short a couple of people. And I'm sure Mike has probably had similar experiences. I would just drive the truck down the street and look for somebody walking, see if they wanted to make a day's pay, and stumbled upon a homeless shelter. In those days, that was very foreign to me, homeless shelters, and then began a relationship with a homeless shelter. And one of the most rewarding personal things in my life, and Mike and I have spoken about this, is to take someone who is homeless or someone who doesn't have a job and to give them the skills where they can provide for themselves and provide their own home and their own livelihood. And I know that when I speak to Mike regularly, as much as I can. One of the things he always tells me, he says, look, in this state and in this region and with the Port Authority, we've got to create jobs. He says, I've got thousands of people that are employed. And I know that when Mike is, because we've spoken, I know when Mike talks about the jobs that we need and how we have to fix the Port Authority and all those things, he's thinking about probably many of his employees, like I would think of my employees, what if they lose a job and can't find a job? A lot of people are just making it paycheck to paycheck. And if they lose their job, they could become homeless. And we're seeing an explosion in homelessness around the country, and public benefits at an all-time high. And I know, because I know Mike, and I know how much he cares about people and all the things that he's done. And one of the reasons why he's so caring about jobs in this region, in this state, in this country, is to keep all of his people employed, because he doesn't want anybody to take a step backwards. And I think that's another reason why Mike gets involved in so much in the community and in so many ways. Mike is the kind of person that never says no to anybody, and he touches people like you can't believe. And I know Mike about 15 years. I know Mike because of Nancy. Nancy, I guess it was back in the late 90s, went on the New York State Metropolitan Transportation Authority Board, which was the largest board, public transportation authority board in the country. And I know that she and her father would argue over which was bigger, New Jersey Transit's board, which was the largest state board, or the largest board just generally, and I think they were both right. They were both very large. I'm not going to get into that, but I know it's hard to believe. I know you look at Nancy, she's always very young, but Nancy and I were like the youngest people on the board, so we sort of hung out together and we chaired committees together. And very early on, she said, you got to meet my dad. You got to meet my dad. And I said, all right, fine. So coincidentally, we were neighbors in Florida, and we met, and we became great friends, and we shared a lot of time together. But if you go to a restaurant with Mike, like where he likes to go, and a new restaurant opens up and you don't know the maitre d' or something, by the time he leaves that restaurant, the next time he goes back, he always gets the best table and never has to wait. And I said, why is that? It's not because he gave $100 to the maitre d', but maybe he did, but it's because he touched the hostess's life, the host, the bartender. He touches people in such a way that when he walks into a room, he lights up a room. And it just, I witness it because I've always liked to witness other people who are really successful and do wonderful things and see how they're able to move people and turn people around. I don't know whether you know this or not, Mike received the Master Entrepreneur of the Year Award from the Ernst Young NASDAQ in the late 90s. I try to be like Mike. I was one of 4 finalists for the Ernst Young NASDAQ Entrepreneur of the Year. So I made it, I was one of the top 4, but Mike was a Master Entrepreneur of the Year. And you heard Dr. Fabricant talk about what it takes to run a trucking company. You don't know, unless you've run a trucking company, what it takes to run a trucking company. I know that we've got Mr. Tamino in the back who runs a trucking company and some other folks, but if you haven't run a trucking company, you'll know what I'm talking about. If you do everything right, 99.5 cents of every dollar goes to expenses. What other business would possibly have that kind of a profit margin? Secondly, if the weather doesn't cooperate, there you lost the other half a penny. If the labor unions don't cooperate, if the economy gets bad, and on top of that, you have to have, like Mike has, 4,000 trucks, 30 facilities just in the United States. there is so much risk, there's so much on the line every day, it's like you've got to be crazy or desperate to be in this business to begin with. But I'll tell you this, it is the most fascinating, incredible business, and it's really the circulatory system of our economy. So, what is it that Mike possesses that made him so successful from, you know, and you say, you know, maybe it was a family business because when he was 13, the family had some trucks. And when he was 13, in those days, you didn't need a driver's license. I know he was driving a truck at 13. Can we lock him up for that or do anything? Statute of limitations. But I'll tell you what, as anybody that has a family business know, most of the time, like 95% of the time, when the family business goes from one generation to the next generation, it goes down the tubes. It doesn't grow to become one of the largest companies really in the state. I was reading a magazine, waiting to talk to the governor, I'm reading a business magazine, and I saw that the Chevelle Group of Companies is one of the top 100 companies in the state of New Jersey, thousands of employees and everything else, but privately owned. I'll tell you how that happens. Some people say there are 4 ingredients. I think there are probably 4, but 3 of the main ingredients Mike has. 1, operational background. If you haven't operated anything, you can't run you can't run anything. You have to have operational background, and I can't sit here and tell you why, but you need operational background to see how things work. 2, financial background. You have to have the ability to analyze and do finances, and it's all about the finances, particularly when you're making a half a penny on the dollar. And 3, the marketing ability. The ability to be able to not only market your own company, but to be able to market other people and to get people to follow you because you were the leader, and you have to get all these people. And the trick that Mike has, he can get thousands of people and get them all to sing to the same tune. He can get them all to move in one direction. And I only say that because if you take a look at what he's done with companies, that's the trick of entrepreneurship. That's what makes Mike at least tick in the business world. Now, how does that translate into the nonprofit world, this world, Jersey Transit? Mike's been with Jersey Transit, the vice chair, for 17 years. He stepped down voluntarily last year. He called me up. He says, look, I've got some other things going on in my life. My back is bothering me, all this other stuff. I want to be on the board if you want me to stay on the board, but I don't want to be vice chairman anymore. I'll chair a committee. I'll do this, I'll do that. But let's give someone else a shot at the wheel. He served 5 governors, the longest serving member of Jersey Transit, which is a $2 billion organization. I have to tell you, when you go to a board meeting with Mike, 1 more minute? Why, isn't that good? This is not good? Hey, Mike, did you buy a couple of tables here or what? Please. I thought I was doing a good job for you. Thank you. So, now I lost my train of thought. Thank you very much, Doctor. But 1 more minute, I'll close here. Oh, when something gets through the board with Mike, you know it's okay. Because Mike can boil things down in 60 seconds and crystallize things and make the argument quick. And if he hears a lot of nonsense, he tells you. And he says, look, let's get to the point. If you want to get from point A to point B, the shortest distance is 2 points, the straight line, etc., and so on. So now that I'm summing up here, thank you very much, Doctor. All I can say is this, Mike, it is an honor to be here to be your friend. It is an honor to watch you in action. I wish you a long and healthy business life, personal life, and everything that you do. A lot of love and a lot of happiness because you deserve it. God bless you.
Thank you. I want to introduce Mayor Bollwage, I believe is also in the room. 20 years mayor of Elizabeth and a longtime friend, Mayor Bollwage.
I'm going to take Mr. Simpson's advice and be about 60 seconds. You know, one good thing, Mike, is you're able to pull together the people who raised all those tolls on your truckers into supporting you. I think that's pretty clever. And I know that's probably a political message, but too bad. I think you're all here to support the coalition to shelter the homeless. And Mike Chevelle has been a great leader in our community in the city of Elizabeth, and I thank him for that. I first met Mike well over 20 years ago when I became the mayor, and I met Nancy in my office, and we talked about how the business could benefit our city and work together. And Mike and I have developed a relationship through those years, and last night I was at the Springsteen concert, Mike, and I ran into Amy Rosen. And I told her you were being honored here today, and she said to send her best, and she enjoyed working with you on the New Jersey Transit Board all of those years, and I thank you for your efforts. Members of the City Council that are here, Councilman Manny Grove and Councilwoman Patricia Perkins Auguste and Councilman Bill Gallman, are here to support you as well, and Assemblyman Joe Cryan, Freeholder Angel Estrada, and the County Manager Al Fiala. Clearly, your business has worked collectively in our city. You've employed many people. You've helped people who are on the brink of life at times, and you've had the ability to give them a second chance. You've had the ability to work with the homeless and make sure that they can grow. And Dr. Fabricant gave a great example of not only your commitment to our community, but your commitment to those that are less fortunate. I can't think of a better person to deserve this award than you today, Mike, and congratulations.
Next speaker is James Weinstein, the Executive Director of New Jersey Transit.
Mayor Ballways talked about making something political. I didn't think that was, frankly, but unplugging the mic was a little much. On behalf of New Jersey Transit, on behalf of our Board of Directors, on behalf of the 11,800 employees in New Jersey Transit, I want to congratulate Mike Chevelle, our longest-serving board member, as the Commissioner pointed out, but a man who has served on the New Jersey Transit Board now for more than half the life of the agency. And I know, Jim, that Commissioner, that you and Nancy talked about which was bigger. I will stipulate that the MTA is bigger than New Jersey Transit. But that is the only thing I will stipulate. On behalf of that, you know, I've had the opportunity to work with Mike. I served as Commissioner earlier. Mike was Vice Chair. And what I learned about him were a couple of things. And Commissioner Simpson pointed out his skill and his deft ability as a business person. He's a man who has a tough-minded business approach to life. But he's also got a soul. And when he's put priorities on making good decisions with the taxpayers' money, with the fare payers' money, which he's done from the day he got onto that board, and he continues to do today. He's a tough taskmaster. But he's always has a human element about it. When he's relating about his business, he's talking about the drivers and the impact decisions have on the lives of the men and women who work for him and their families. Is best described as a mensch. He's a wonderful human being. It has been an honor for me to share my career with him in a couple of occasions. And I want you to know that this agency, the agency I have the privilege of serving as executive director of, and this state are just incredibly privileged to have a man of Mike Chevelle's character, of his intelligence, and of caring concern for people to service. And it is not a surprise to me that the Coalition to House the Homeless in Elizabeth is honoring him today. It's an honor that's well-deserved. It's an honor that's greatly deserved. And I find it a privilege here to be able to testify to Mike, the human being, to Mike, the businessman, to Mike, the board member of New Jersey Transit, and to Mike, the friend. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. I was hopeful that you all could join me. We're going to honor Mike in just a moment. I'm going to recognize him. But for the good folks who do the incredible work with the Elizabeth Coalition for the Homeless, would you join me in one more round of applause for these incredible people? They changed lives, and I've had the good fortune to know people who you've helped directly. But you don't do it alone. You do it thanks to the incredible work of so many people, but particularly the man we're recognizing today, Mike Chevelle. Mike, I have a resolution for you. By the way, I have my wife's glasses today, so we put all the lights on them. Grab the wrong glasses. None of you guys ever do that, I'm sure, but I do. And they have lights on them, so she can read in bed and say, shut up. And just, no, I'm not bad. But, I have the honor of presenting you a resolution. It's signed by Speaker Oliver and Senate President Sweeney, Mike, and it's on behalf of Senator Lesniak, Assemblywoman Keano, and myself. It's a lot of words on paper, and a lot of it echoes what's there. I only want to read one sentence to you all. I'm not sure that any sentence could ever capture what you've meant to so many people in so many levels of success in your life. But today we honor you for not forgetting the other guy. Chris mentioned that he was at the Springsteen concert last night. So was I. I'm a little more sluggish, I think, than Chris today. But what I watched, and the reason I wanted to tell you this, is I thought about this morning, is they had the buckets out. Because Bruce does this thing where you feed the homeless, and he has the buckets out where you put a few dollars in if you have some change. And I was struck by how many people walk past it that could go for $150 a ticket, but couldn't pass a buck along the candy or on the way in and way out. And we're taught in this life that you don't judge other people. But I thought to myself, I bet they could afford it. They just didn't take the time to take a moment and remember the other guy. What Mike Chevelle does is remember the other guy. And I think that's probably the most important characteristic in life. And the reason for all your success is that you remember the other guy. I want to share this one line. Within all spheres of his life and work, it says Myron here, sorry about that, Mike Chevelle, and to salute him as an individual of outstanding character and exceptional determination. There's a lot of whereases and wherefores there, and it looks pretty on a piece of paper. But I'll tell you this, to the people I know that the coalition has touched, to the people who do the work that you've helped so much, these are words on a piece of paper and they mean a lot, but they'll never meet the lives that you've changed, the impact you've made, and the difference you've had. On behalf of the people of the state of New Jersey and the people of the 20th District, we thank you for all your work, day in and day out, and we thank you so much for changing lives on a daily basis. Thank you, Mike.
A little trouble with my back, so I don't move too fast. I don't know who you've been talking about up here for the past half hour, but it certainly wasn't me. And I'm not going to take up much of your time, but this is, the coalition means an awful lot to me. And the city of Elizabeth means an awful lot to me. I came involved in the city of Elizabeth in 1982, and it's been a great, great ride for me, for my company, and the 5,000 people that are part of the Chevelle Group. And almost a couple thousand of them are in the state of New Jersey. So we have a lot to be thankful for in the state of New Jersey, and we have a lot of work that has to be done in the state of New Jersey so we don't have more homeless. And if, God forbid, our business isn't successful, we would put a lot of people on the street and a lot of people who depend on what we do in our company. And I take this very, very serious. This is my responsibility as CEO and chairman of the board of our companies. And I can't thank all the political help that we've gotten from the assemblies, from the councilmen, our mayor. You've got one of the best mayors in the country. I mean, he understands when you go and you sit down and talk to him about a problem. He understands what it is and how important it is that we keep the jobs. Because all the elections and everything that you hear out there, whether you're a Democrat or Republican, is one thing: what's going to happen to our economy? Because this will dictate of whether we're going to have more homeless people or less. And in this great country, there should be no one to be homeless. The first place we should be doing, can you hear me? Yeah. Is helping our people here, not running all over the world and trying to do everything all over where people hate our guts. And you've seen what's happened with burning our American flag. That to me is like putting a knife in me. I grew up during World War II. I know what it is, and I know what sacrifice is. And I came up just as the doctor did, driving a truck. And when I was 13, I was driving a truck. I think it was on my 13th birthday that I hit a bridge, and I was afraid to go home and tell my father. But, you know, I look in this room and there's so many faces that are familiar to me. I look at Joe Cambria, Jr., and I remember his father coming in and trying to sell me trucks. and I didn't have any money to buy trucks. But he said, here are the keys, you'll go and work it out, and we did. And we built a great company with great people, and that's the key, people. And we want to take care of our people, and we want to continue to do the things so our people can take their wives and families out to dinner, can educate their kids, can have a roof over their head. And this takes all of us working together as a team to accomplish this, just like the coalition is. And we'll do whatever we can. And our family has the Arlene Chevelle Memorial, what do you call it? What is it? Scholarship Fund. Where we help kids that are indigent and kids that have had alcohol and drug problems. And this is financed wholly by our family. And we do everything in our power, and we meet with the kids. Nancy, my daughter Nancy, and my daughter Susan head it up. And this is, we don't talk too much about it, but it's a wonderful fund, and we take care of the various different hospitals that help these kids. We also have been very, very helpful to the Ronald McDonald, which has been funded by my late son. So we know what it is, and we try to do everything that's possible to help other people. And the homeless is so important, and again, there is no reason in this country that anybody should be homeless. And we will continue to do what we can to be helpful. I want to thank everybody who spoke on my behalf, and I appreciate everything, and I appreciate what Dr. Farrakhan is doing and the rest of his group. And I want to thank my colleagues at the Transit, and also my colleagues at New Jersey Motor Truck. I've been the chairman of the board. They won't let me loose. I want to get out after 20-some years, and they tell me I can't. But it's an honor for me to serve in these things, and an honor for me to stand before you and thank you for a wonderful, wonderful presentation and a wonderful honor. And I will think of it for the rest of my life. God bless you all, and the best, only success. Thank you.